This is not war. This is annihilation. The year is 1221, and deep within the unforgiving, rugged valleys near Parwan, a tactical masterclass in destruction is reaching its brutal climax. Watch as the disciplined Mongol army's heavy cavalry, a dark, unstoppable tide sweeps through the scattered, fatally distracted forces of Jalal ad-Din Mingburnu. Their charge is a silhouette of dread against a blood-orange sunset, a perfect storm of metal, muscle, and absolute clinical discipline. Every swing of a sword, every arrow loosed by a dust-smeared veteran, is a testament to the focused, merciless intensity of an army forged by Genghis Khan. An extreme close-up of a veteran's eyes reveals only cold focus, even as his arrow finds its mark on an ornate but bloody chest. There is no escape here. The Khwarezmian heir's main infantry, once proud, is now just a scatter of broken shields and desperate bodies, victims of a perfectly executed wedge formation deep in this rocky canyon. The tactical failure is laid bare in an overhead drone shot, a flawless Mongol pincer movement closing in on men who are still fighting over scattered gold and silk, their internal squabble a fatal distraction. The very earth is blood-soaked, marked by the shredded fabric of a fallen banner, symbolizing the death of their morale and the complete breakdown of command. As the shadow of General Torbjai falls over the carnage from a high ridge, stoic and merciless, the terror is palpable. They ran, they were lured, and now they are trapped. This is the price of overconfidence. A decisive, devastating massacre that would echo for centuries. The immediate genesis of this tragedy was a moment of fleeting, reckless elation. Archival depictions bring to life the Khwarezmian heir, Jalal ad-Din Mingburnu, riding a wave of exhilarating but profoundly short-lived celebration after a minor skirmish victory. His Afghan and Persian auxiliaries, cheering and raising captured banners, were intoxicated by this false sense of security, deep in the confines of the rugged Parwan Valley. This fleeting triumph, however, had attracted a force far greater than they imagined. A solemn war map confirms the strategic importance of this valley, a choke point where the fate of Central Asia hung in the balance. But what truly set the subsequent massacre in motion was the cold, unyielding rage of Genghis Khan himself. A historical scroll, vividly unrolled, details his absolute fury at the news of that minor Mongol defeat. The great Khan demanded vengeance, and his generals delivered a plan born of brutal, calculated strategy. Jalal ad-Din, determined and charismatic, gave fiery commands, urging his allied commanders to capitalize on their recent success. He saw momentum. The Mongol army saw an opening. While his men were noisy and boisterous, a contrasting image defines the Mongol response. An organized column of cavalry moving silently, swiftly through the night. The atmosphere surrounding the Mongols was cold, professional, and relentless. Meanwhile, the overstuffed Khwarezmian supply wagons, laden with fresh loot, were moved carelessly into the narrowest part of the valley, a visual and strategic forecast of their later fatal distraction. A veteran Khwarezmian commander, scarred and uneasy, felt the slight tremor of doubt, a premonition ignored by the prevailing overconfidence. The Mongol scouting party, stoic and almost invisible from their high rocky vantage point, observed the entire fatal parade. The Mongol deployment was a study in deception. The initial advance was a small, disciplined detachment, testing the enemy's mettle. The rocky terrain, difficult for the usual Mongol sweeping tactics, necessitated a change in plan. General Torbjai, observing from a gap in the rocks, realized the necessity of the feigned retreat. He had to lure them out of their strong defensive positions. The Afghan and Persian archers, anticipating a static, direct charge, a predictable war, were prepared for a tactic the Mongol army had long abandoned. Then came the signal. Complex flag communications waved rapidly across the battlefield, coordinating the precise, controlled feigned withdrawal. This was the pivotal, disastrous moment. Jalal ad-Din Mingburnu, in a flicker of overconfidence and elation, misinterpreted the tactical withdrawal as a definitive, panicked retreat. His forces, succumbing to greed and overzealousness, instantly broke formation, surging forward in a disorganized wave to pursue the fleeing Mongols into the pre-selected choke point. An extreme close-up of a Khwarezmian boot kicking up dust confirms the desperate, self-destructive race for spoils. But the Mongol rearguard, composed of disciplined veteran cavalry, performed the withdrawal with perfect synchronization, their eyes watching for the precise, surgical moment to turn. A tactical 3D graphic illustrates the inevitable, the Khwarezmian lines stretching and weakening, their flanks vulnerable. Then, the first sign of the trap, a distracted infantryman already stooping for discarded Mongol equipment. The climax arrived with sudden, shattering force. The Mongol rearguard wheeled around as a single unit, instantly transforming the retreat into a devastating surgical counterattack. A desperate Khwarezmian officer shouted feudal commands, his men ignoring him for the lure of plunder. The overhead shot captures the terrifying geometric change, the disciplined Mongol formation instantly reforming from a retreating line into a striking battle wedge, slicing the disorganized Khwarezmian forces in half. From the flank ridge, Mongol archers unleashed a devastating, coordinated volley of arrows into the clustered, trapped masses. The main infantry body, fully committed and separated, finally realized the brutal truth. The retreat was a deliberate, total trap. Mongol heavy cavalry units surgically cut the Khwarezmian supply line, isolating the now disorganized Air's forces deeper in the valley. As the main Mongol body emerged over the ridge, fresh, relentless, and disciplined, the joy on Jalal ad-Din Mingburnu's face gave way to dawning cold dread. As the fighting escalates around a pile of loot, a lone Khwarezmian silver coin, half buried in the dust, becomes the stark, silent symbol of the greed that paved the path to their total downfall. The scene is a systematic, clinical annihilation, not just a battle. The fighting is brutal and fast-paced, epitomized by a Mongol cavalryman using his lasso to pull an auxiliary off his horse, immediately followed by a decisive sword stroke. Chaos reigned among the Khwarezmian forces, captured in a shaky, handheld-style shot, with panic leading to desperate trampling in the narrow valley. In terrifying contrast, the Mongol army's discipline was terrifyingly efficient. Heavy cavalry worked in perfect tandem, flanking and trapping a Khwarezmian commander, their coordination effortlessly overcoming the enemy's individual, fragmented bravery. The Mongol edge, superiority, and relentlessness. The desperation of the Khwarezmian defense was tragically futile. Heavy axes shattered harmlessly against the thick lamellar armor of a Mongol soldier who stood firm and unflinching, a testament to the Mongols' superior defense and relentless will. In cinematic slow motion, a Mongol composite bow flexed, tracking its projectile as it found its mark on a distant target. The valley floor was quickly consumed by the carnage, with an overhead shot focusing on a pool of blood spreading rapidly into the dust. Mongol skirmishers, masters of light cavalry warfare, constantly pressured the disorganized forces, reloading their bows with an efficiency that denied the enemy any respite. An extreme close-up on a terrifying horsehead helmet crest of a Mongol officer, his face hidden and merciless, was the last thing many saw. The sheer cliff faces of the valley, once a natural defense, now became a bloody, inescapable trap. A dramatic tracking shot followed a heavy Mongol charge as it effortlessly broke through the thin, last-stand line of auxiliaries. Jalal ad-Din Mingburnu's elite guard attempted a desperate, futile countercharge, only to be immediately surrounded and overwhelmed by the numbers and discipline of the Mongols. Strategically, the Mongol archers shifted their targets to the high-ranking officers, a clear tactical move to decapitate the leadership. Internal collapse and tactical mastery. The enemy's fatal flaw, greed, was still playing out. Fighting broke out amongst the Khwarezmian and auxiliary troops over scattered loot, even as the disciplined Mongol army closed in for the slaughter. This internal conflict accelerated their demise. The transition from slaughter to subjugation began with a Mongol soldier systematically disarming and binding a captive, underscoring the cold, post-battle discipline. The image of a broken Mongol battle standard lying next to a perfectly intact, disciplined line of cavalry symbolized the Mongols' tolerance for minor loss, offset by the core of their unwavering strategy. Close quarters combat was brutal and efficient. A Mongol warrior, using a short curved sword, executed a pinned foot soldier, a two-man killing machine. From above, the tactical situation was clear. Mongol light cavalry easily bypassed the desperate cover sought by the scattered forces, herding the survivors into killing zones. A Mongol general, Torbei, calmly directed the flow of the annihilation using precise, cold hand signals from a commanding position. The wide, controlled shot of the Mongol army's tactical reserve patiently waiting outside the valley's mouth was a picture of ominous, controlled power, ready to cut off the final escapees. The finality of defeat and aftermath. Jalal ad-Din Mingburnu, on a sweat-soaked horse, surrounded by a handful of loyalists, finally accepted the absolute loss and planned a desperate lone escape. The symbolic destruction continued as the air supply wagons were systematically looted and burned by the victorious Mongol army. A Mongol horse archer executed a perfect Parthian shot at a pursuing Khwarezmian soldier, demonstrating the superior, deceptive skill that rendered the Mongol army virtually untouchable. Desperation was everywhere. An auxiliary soldier threw down his weapon in surrender, only to be met by the cold, emotionless advance of a block of Mongol spearmen. A small group of cavalry, attempting to smash through the bottleneck at the valley's exit, were met by a hail of arrows from the waiting Mongol reserve. Two Mongol army soldiers, their discipline unwavering, systematically searched the bodies of the slain for intelligence and maps, showing the clinical, strategic nature of the aftermath. The Mongols even co-opted captured Khwarezmian war horns and drums, their sound now used to spread confusion and despair. The last pockets of resistance were futile. A Khwarezmian warrior, cornered against a sheer rock face, desperately defended himself against multiple simultaneous attacks from disciplined Mongol infantry. As the sun began to set, the long, dark shadows of the disciplined Mongol army fell over the bodies of the slain, emphasizing the scale of the massacre. A Mongol soldier was shown calmly cleaning the blood from his saber with a piece of torn Khwarezmian cloth, the action methodical and devoid of emotion, a picture of disciplined brutality. The victorious Mongol army systematically cleared the battlefield, gathering weapons and organizing the captives, showing the incredible efficiency of their war machine. A close-up on a Mongol arrowhead embedded deep in a splintered wooden shield confirmed the sheer force of their volley. The Mongol army set fire to the remaining war supplies, the flames a clear message of scorched earth. The entire length of the valley near Parwan was littered with the dead, the scale of the tactical annihilation absolute, with only the disciplined Mongol army standing in formation. A low-angle shot of a Mongol officer raising his hand, signaling the complete cessation of organized resistance, confirmed the battle was a finished massacre. The final image is a wide, sweeping shot of the valley, now quiet, smoky, and strewn with the evidence of the brutal tactical breakdown and annihilation, leaving a devastating silence. The only remaining sound was the methodical piling of weapons by the Mongol army soldiers, marking the cold, efficient conclusion of the fighting. The sun sets on the valley near Parwan, leaving behind a scene of profound, desolate victory. A solitary Mongol army cavalryman rides slowly over the completely silent, corpse-strewn battlefield, the smoke from burning supplies drifting through the twilight air. Captured Afghan and Persian auxiliaries, their faces downcast and defeated, are led away by a disciplined escort, the crushing morale effect visible in every step. All that remains of the Khwarezmian pride is a broken helmet, its single feather a final, mournful symbol. The Mongol army scribes and officers, demonstrating the cold, bureaucratic efficiency of the war machine, meticulously count and record the enormous casualties and captured resources. Yet, there is no rest. The commander's face instantly hardens upon receiving the report. Jalal ad-Din Mingburnu successfully escaped. The victory, though total, is deemed incomplete. A new, relentless pursuit begins immediately, as fresh Mongol units remount and move out of the valley. Genghis Khan's personal banner, the black nine-tailed standard, is carried forward, symbolizing the Khan's personal, unwavering command of the hunt. Jalal ad-Din, scarred and defiant, rides hard, looking back one last time at the devastated valley. His look of furious, desperate will to survive. The arduous, high-stakes hunt across the treacherous landscape begins, confirmed by a Mongol scout picking up a dropped Khwarezmian artifact. The Mongol army's main body moves with terrifying speed and precision through the mountain passes, a disciplined wave of unstoppable vengeance. The final, symbolic image, a blood-stained Khwarezmian glove floating downstream, foreshadowing the inevitable, decisive battle of the Indus River. The pursuit army, framed against the dawn, is a relentless machine. The Battle of Parwan is over, but Genghis Khan's vengeance is just beginning.